What is your My House is Haunted story? When I was younger, I set up the camera on my PSP to spy on my brother. Later on, I watched the video just to see the office chair spinning around on its own. Wish I was joking. My house is super haunted, but it's too many little instances to put into one story. I guess I too just go with the most recent one. A few nights ago, I heard running upstairs, despite being home alone. I thought it was my cat, but then he came downstairs, and the running continued. I was a little spooked, but it's not the worst thing that's happened in this house. The running lasted for quite a while, plus a few knocks. The next morning I was cleaning upstairs in that room and my cat crawled into a box of fabric. I thought he was being cute, so I said, "a wee," and started to pull out my phone to take a picture. While I was still reaching for my phone, I heard a mocking "aweee" right behind me. I completely froze and just let myself process it for a few seconds before checking the room. Obviously I was still alone. That one spooked me a little. My friend Carl's last apartment had two ghosts. One was a little girl, who would play with your hair while you were hanging out in the living room, as well as running along the vertical blinds, making them swing back and forth. The second I never saw or heard, but I did feel him. One night, I locked myself out of my apartment. We lived in the same complex, one building over from each other, so I asked to crash Carl's place for the night while he went to work. But he had told me don't go into his room. There is a male ghost who will tell you that you don't belong in there. His previous roommate had let several friends crash his room, and a tall black shadow opened the door and said get out to all of them. Freaked them the hell out. So here I am on the couch in the living room. Head on the end of the couch that looks down the hall to the bedrooms and bathroom. I swear I was being watched. Then it hit me. I needed to pee. And the bathroom is right across the hall from Carl's bedroom. Fantastic. So I slowly creeped down the hall, and about 5 feet from my goal I said, "Hey man, I just need to use the bathroom." Then it felt like a cloud of energy got pulled back into the bedroom despite the door being closed. So I did my thing and hauled us back to the couch, but I put my head on the other end of the couch. Nothing outstanding, but just a really creepy vibe. On the positive side at least. Carl had someone looking out for him. I used to live in a basement apartment when I was in grad school. The landlady lived in the main house, and while she herself was super nice and cool, her house always felt really off to me. However, she charged a reasonable amount of rent, and I was only 2 miles from school. About a week or two after I moved in, I had gone to bed and the apartment was pitch black at night. If my landlady ever wanted to speak to me, I would hear the doors above the stairs unlock and she would call out to me. One night, I heard movement on the steps, but I didn't hear her unlock the doors, and it was probably 2 in the morning. She certainly didn't call me saying she needed to talk to me. I hear these heavy steps descending the stairs, but I'm so scared that I shrink further in my bed to hide. The floor begins to creak towards my door, and then nothing for a few seconds. I'm not sure if it is safe to relax and go back to bed. Then I hear the doorknob start to turn. My fear makes me so scared that I pull the covers over my head to hide. I prayed the whole time under the covers. The next thing I know, it's finally morning. I stayed in that apartment for 2 years. When it was my graduation, I slept in a hotel because there was no room for my family to sleep. That night in the hotel was the first restful sleep I had in what felt like forever. Found random crucifixes on doorknobs. We aren't Catholic. One morning, my sister woke up and everything that was in the attic was in her bedroom. She had attic access in her bedroom. Mom was shocked, sister was lazy, dad was out of the country. I didn't do it. Explain that. Moved into a new apartment about a year ago, and shortly thereafter, I heard kids stomping around on the floor above. Oh great, I thought, noisy upstairs neighbors. And then it hit me. I don't have upstairs neighbors. Or downstairs neighbors. The whole joint is mine from ground to roof. Some friends suggested that maybe I have raccoons or other critters in the attic, but I've had those before. They don't sound anything like that, and a week or 2 later, the raccoons in the attic were vacuuming the carpets. Must be GGG ghosts. Actually, What it is some bizarre architectural quirk that makes stomping around on the floors next door propagate horizontally and sound like they are coming from over my head. Been living in apartments since 1978. Have never experienced this kind of thing before. Growing up, our house was blessed 3 times before it became normal. Stuff would fly off shelves and countertops. The dog would constantly bark at the attic entry as my brother screamed, "Fire monster." And one night it sounded like someone broke in and was stomping down the stairs, so my dad got his gun ready. And nothing was there. As a child I would see shadows around, but probably had no idea what to think of it. Me and my brother would go to the basement together cause we were both too scared to go alone. LOL. I've posted about this before, but it wasn't the house, it was the fucking Pinocchio puppet. The thing was made of wood and looked like someone tried to convert the Disney version to polygons. The cheeks and all had sharp corners and points. One day the AC was off, it was hung under a fan, and it turned to me and started reaching out. Then the air kicked on and it went limp. We gave it back to the gifter, and one of their walls burned down. Never saw it again. My childhood home had its original owner die in my old room. In high school had a party and a friend came from the bathroom pale as hell. He stated that he saw an old woman standing over his shoulder when he looked up at the mirror as he was washing his hands. We found the light on and the water running. He was freaked out. Moved into a 100-year-old house. Anytime I went downstairs while my daughter was napping, I would hear it running through the house. Several times I thought it was my cheeky toddler that had woken up. Figured out it only happened when I left her alone upstairs sleeping and firmly believed it was just a small child spirit checking on her. Still creeped me the fuck out. Came back upstairs one day and told it how I knew it was worrying about her and checking in on her, but that I would never go further away than the yard. That I appreciated that it cared, but it was actually making me really scared. I said that if she was ever in actual danger, that I would absolutely appreciate its help if I didn't realize, but otherwise it was only making me worried. I only ever heard those footsteps once more. In the first few days I brought my second baby home from the hospital. I think my little friend was just reminding me that it would watch this baby for me too. I was sitting in the living room watching TV with just me and my mom. The hallway had her and my dad's room at the end. As we were watching we heard someone talking that didn't sound like it came from the TV. We muted it and heard it coming from the bedroom. The TV wasn't on in there. We both cautiously walked towards the bedroom and heard giggling which freaked us the fuck out. It was coming from the closet which was open, but we couldn't see anything in there. There was clearly a child's voice talking, but it was weird. Like words were spoken, but they weren't words. It was almost like something The Sims where it sounded like words, but was not. Thank God it was in her room and not mine. Not my house, but my grandparents'. There was an airing cupboard that was like, too cold to be in their overly hot house. You could feel the cold radiating from outside it. My bro dared me to go in it once. There was just this lack of noise. The cars outside went quiet. I couldn't hear my own breathing. When I called out for my bro, I could feel my voice vibrating in my throat, but nothing came out. It was fucking terrifying. When I pulled open the door, my bro was white as a ghost. We ran downstairs and never went back upstairs again. I never asked him what upset him, but I honestly don't want to know. My damn pizza cutters. We have been in our house for about 10 years and our pizza cutters just disappear. At first we didn't think anything about it, just lost it and got another one. Not too long after that it's gone too. Now I'm thinking it's a little strange. I can't find it, looked everywhere. Got another one thinking, this one better not disappear, don't even know if I got to use that one before it was gone. Then bought a cheapo one from the dollar store, and said, watch this one be gone soon, and before I knew it, gone. There might have been a couple more, but you get the idea. I have searched everywhere in my kitchen. I painted the cabinets last year, and had them completely taken apart and all drawers pulled out. The stove was moved, there was nowhere they could be hidden, and still no sign of the pizza cutters. I have not bought another one since then, and have just kind of accepted we can't have a pizza cutter. We still have the original utensils from when we first moved in together 14 years ago, but I can't keep a pizza cutter. I've lived in this house for nearly 20 years before anything happened. One night, I woke up and felt a male presence. I looked and saw a tall shadow figure in the corner of my room. It didn't do anything but stand there. This happened a couple more times before I told my mom, who said, "Yeah, there's spirits in their house, but they're good spirits." About 4 months go by and it wasn't happening as much anymore. One night I woke up to this figure leaning over my bed in my face. I freaked out and jumped up, screaming, but nothing came out. It was straight up those scenes in the movies where people wake up right before they get stabbed. Just the other day, I'm standing in my kitchen and the light is on in the basement. I'm looking in the general direction of the basement door, and I see a shadow pass across the light that's showing from under the door. I double take and sure enough the shadow passes again. At this point I'm pretty freaked out, and I grab my buck knife, just in case there's someone squatting, and I need to protect myself. I open the door, and there's nothing visible that could have made the shadow. I go further downstairs and take a left. To the right is my boiler room. I check the closets that I have there for storing random crap, as some of the stuff is on the floor. And out of the corner of my eye I see her. It's my dead grandma come back to haunt me. She's standing floating in the boiler room doorway, and I fucking sprint back up the stairs. I shut off the light and lock the door, hoping I don't have to deal with that shit ever again. I haven't been down there since. The kids' toys would get rearranged, but in ways the kids couldn't do it. For example, there was a music box, a shape sort of thing. You had to put the blocks in to make it work. One day the blocks were just gone nowhere. We lived in a tiny house, and I was super meticulous about cleaning up the playroom and making sure all the pieces of everything were where they belonged. It was a big deal to me. So one evening I'm cleaning the play area, and I put the box away, and the little blocks were lost. I tore the room apart searching for them, looked around the house. I checked everywhere. Next day I walked by the play area, and the blocks were stacked on the very top of the shelves where no one could reach. Another time it was a toy that had plastic boulders again. Putting the toys away, the balls are nowhere. I do the same searching as before and finally give up. A couple of days later, I'm taking the baby to put her to bed, and they were just sitting in the middle of the floor in the nursery. A lot of things like that almost always with toys. But the other crazy thing was that a lot of the pictures of my daughter we took in that house has a little shine right above her head and to the right. Nobody else. I can go for days, but this my favorite. Around the time I was 6, my mom and pops left to go south for vacation, and left my teen sister in charge of me and my 8-year-old brother. My sister called her boyfriend, now husband, over to spend a few nights with us. We already knew our house was freaky, so we all slept in the living room. But early one morning while everyone was asleep, I got up to go to the bathroom. The living room is connected to the kitchen, and the kitchen leads to the bedrooms and bathroom. As I entered the kitchen, there was a guy standing on my dining room table, engulfed in flames. He was dead as lit on actual fire. He was screaming and reacting in agony, but there was no noise coming from him. Just silence. I ran back to the living room and jumped on the couch, hid under the covers until I fell asleep. Also in the same house I experienced running into a guy with a bright hat and trench coat. But he had no facial features. It was just white. He disappeared before my eyes as quick as he startled me. When I was around 7 or 8 years old, I went to go play in my sister's room to be stopped by a hooded figure floating in front of her door. I knew what I was looking at wasn't human. I also knew what I was looking at was staring at me with ill intent. Before I knew it, it rushed at me with inhuman speed, and I crouched down in fear, covering my face in my knees. When I looked back up, it was gone. I eventually learned the history of our home. A husband got off of work one day and came home and shot his wife and daughter, then proceeded to walk into our backyard to kill himself. Many other strange occurrences happened, and eventually it became too much and we moved. Many years ago, maybe 3 years after my father died. Still in my childhood home. My father was a very large man. 6 feet plus and over 300 pounds. Every night, without fail, when I was a child, he would come check on me whenever he was on his way to bed. He loved his horror movies, but my mom hated them. So he would watch them after she went to bed. They slept on the floor above me. One night me and my dog, Buddy, were still awake at about 12ish, the usual time he would come check in on us. I heard his footsteps coming up the hallway. We lived in a really old house, and him being such a huge dude, had a very specific sound when he walked through the hallway. One heard it. Same steps. Same weight. Same pace. All the way up the hallway right up to my bedroom door. I had never been so hopeful and terrified at the same time. All I wanted was for him to walk back in my door. I would have chalked it up to the stress of losing him, or maybe just the floorboards settling. But it stopped. Right when it got to my door. And then, right as Buddy was fixated on my door handle, the same moment I would have seen it turn. Buddy got up off my bed. Walked to the door, sniffed the door crack, and his tail started wagging. Cue me sobbing. Never believed in it before, don't know if I believe it now. But I can hope. I was never ready to lose him, and I don't think I ever would have been. But hearing those steps sometimes when I stay in that old room, brings me more comfort than anything else possibly could. My parents' house was built on top where an old farmhouse was placed, which had belonged to my mom's family for 200 years or so. Many family members had passed on the lot. Either way, when I was still living at home, I would sometimes stay up after my parent had gone to bed to play video games. And when I was about 15, I did that one night. Went to bed around 2 a.m., fell asleep. Dad woke me up at 3 a.m. complaining I had not turned off my video games and it was making too much noise. Went out to check, and lo and behold, one had been playing Twisted Metal 2. On the telly was the character Grasshopper being played at the Los Angeles stage, the car wrecked, burning and backing up in a circle continuously using turbo. Enemies were standing around using freeze rays and specials, but nothing had any effect. The controller didn't do anything when I was pushing the buttons, and I swear to every deity in the world when I say this, but my PS2 that I had played it on was not turned on. When I did turn it on, it stopped. Didn't sleep well THST night. Keep in mind, I don't believe in hauntings, like at all. I currently live in a house where at least 4 people have died in the room we use as a bedroom. Our black cat was born on Friday 13th, we've never been in the attic, we live by a mountain, where which killings occurred way back when. And the area here is named something like Fate Valley, because there were multiple skirmishes here around 1,200 years ago, so many met their fate here. Haven't experienced anything. But I'll never forget my very own Twisted Metal 2 creepypasta. Backstory. I had a friend over to spend the night, and there was a room in between my room and my brother's room that we would be staying in. My room is just across my brother's, and in the ceiling there is access to the attic. We try to stay up all night, and we start hearing weird noises from the hallway. It was maybe 1 a.m. I was joking around with my friend, so I turned the lights off. That's when a loud creaking came right in front of me. A chill went down my spine. I turned the light back on and no one was there. I looked back to my friend and she threw something on the ground. We joked about it and started to watch scary movies. We started to get hungry and came up with a plan to get the leftover pizza. I saw my brother was on the PC even though he isn't supposed to play after 11. Note, we left the light on in the hall. After we microwaved the pizza, we started to walk back to the room we were staying in. We stopped halfway up and saw the light in the hall was off. I turned it on and blamed it on my brother. But my friend argued he was on the PC, and he would have to pass us. A few days passed and I asked him why he pranked my friend and I. He told me he was still playing his game until the PC randomly turned off. We live right beside a graveyard, so as a child I was terrified. During 2020 I was home alone working on school stuff. I swear I heard a light switch flick while I was working. I was in the kitchen, so I grabbed a knife. One heard it again, from down the hall. I proceeded to search every room in the house with a knife in my hand, and always hearing the flick coming from another room. By the end of it, I was crying, questioning my own sanity. The house my wife grew up in had some strange goings on. She said when her parents moved in, the elderly neighbors acted really strange and implied that something had happened in the house, but they never found out what, and all those older residents are dead now, so they are unlikely to find out. She said when her and her sisters were young they kept hearing a noise from the attic at night that sounded like someone dragging something heavy. Her mum used to tell them it was squirrels, but they found out later that she was just saying that to not scare them, and she actually had no idea what it was. There was another instance where her mum was in the living room and a friend called by, looked through the window but didn't come in. When asked why, she said she saw that she had company. A man in a red jumper sat next to her and didn't want to disturb her. There was no man in a red jumper. I don't believe in this kind of thing, but her stories about that house give me the creeps. When I was in high school around 2005, my friend had a bunch of us over to hang out. Some guys were in the basement and 3 of us, emphasize 3, were upstairs in his bedroom playing on his computer. This was back in the day of actual desktop computers. So the 3 of us were huddled around his computer desk and coincidentally, looking up creepy shit. We came across some site that played Stairway to Heaven backwards. When you play it backwards it says, "Sad Satan." And it sounds super creepy. Anyway, my one friend came upstairs and took a photo of us sitting at the computer with an old flip phone. As the night went on, we all ended up hanging in the basement. My friend who took the photo shows it to me nonchalantly. When I looked at the photo, I noticed that my one friend Ryan was in the photo with his arms around us posing for the photo. I said to my friend who took the photo, "Ryan wasn't up there with us. How is he in this photo?" Remember, there were only 3 of us in the bedroom. Ryan being there makes it 4 of us. So then I show it to my friend Ryan, and he was like, "What the fuck?" He said he was in the basement the entire time. My friends were freaked out for about 5 minutes, and then moved on and totally forgot about it. However, all these years later it still freaks me out. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos like this one.